I'm doing a little bit of a test here. I've got this stuff I've put in a container at one point, put some bolts in there, and it cleaned them right up. They're super rusty. You get an Eastwood. It's called Fast Etch. I believe it's kind of like when you prep for Pour 15, it leaves a zinc phosphate-ish type coating. So I have a wheel that will scrub off rust. I bought them from Canadian Tire. I should show you guys. I've used the 3M ones, but I found these Mastercraft ones, the Canadian Tire brand. It's the same from what I can tell. That'll take paint and rust off very nicely. And if you look at this piece, some of it is pretty clean and some of it is super scaly, rusty. I'm doing a test. You're supposed to keep it wet. So I put some Fast Etch on a paper towel here. And then here was not. And then here I've scrubbed with a bit of Scotch-Brite. We're gonna go in now. I'm gonna come back this evening. So let it sit for 30 minutes. I'm gonna probably let it sit longer, get a proper test, see how it does when it dries on here. But I wanna show you guys something. So I started with this piece. This is gonna soak in the rags, keep it wet. This is not. It's just gonna stay wet. And then here, I put the same stuff on. You can see it's cleaned up a bit with Scotch-Brite fairly easy versus this is what it looked like. But this is heavily rusted here. Like it's properly brown. So we'll see what it does to this as it sits. If it works, I'm going to be quite happy because it also leaves, it's supposed to be ready to put primer on after. So we'll probably do this combined with those wheels, like with one of these guys here. All right, so we have all these parts have been sitting probably 2 hours now, more than 30 minutes recommended. That one's dried off. The paper towel is still wet, which I actually like to see because we're gonna find out what it looks like underneath there. And this one looks like it's kind of wanting to lift the rust. It's definitely done some cleaning where it's not rusted as heavily. So as you can see, this is the Scotch-Brite one. This one here, we'd Scotch-Brite it now. Oh yeah, definitely helping remove the rust. So here's my curiosity, the one we let soak. How's it doing? Oh yeah, okay. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna soak our pieces with paper towel and let them soak like that. It truly does clean it. Very cool. So we have the bag, not the baggage door, sorry, I'm thinking about campers work. What I have here is the hatch, what's left of it after you pull it apart, and the windows. There is some rust in here. So I think I want to let this sit overnight. Like obviously this one is going to need repairs up there. Let's see how much of this we can save. And wherever these hinges were, I'm not sure how bad that's going to get. And then we'll coat them up in here, let them soak, probably spray them again in the morning. Eastwood said you can let it sit overnight. So I think the key is keeping it wet. All right, so I ended up bringing the actual hatch away because I couldn't get all the rest out of there. It's too intricate to get sandblasted. Fingers crossed they won't warp it. They said they've got some experience with it. We will know if they do for sure or not. A local powder coating place in town said they've worked with body panels. But I'm keeping the ambulance windows and I'll show you kind of where we're at here. So this is the extent of my cleaning. We're gonna fix it here and here. And we also cleaned this one up. It came out pretty good. I would say no rust repair needed. I'll just weld up these holes. Worked pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. But this side here needs some repairs. So I've got this piece from the old door. It's almost cleaned up. You can see it was rusty. I gotta clean up a little bit more here yet. But it's going to fit very nicely in there. Yeah, that'll be what I'll do. probably get it tack welded in, and then when we get the other piece back from sandblasting, I can make sure that fit is good. So we got a bunch of holes here that I would like to weld up, and I'm going to be using a piece of copper stuck on the bottom here. And I recently heard something about hammer and dollying on the welds if it wants to warp to stretch it out. So even the big holes, which were bigger than these guys here, I'm going to be patching that piece, but even those big holes you were able to fill. I've been starting the weld on the copper, bridging across, and then hitting a couple more times in between cooling. Let's take a look at this. When we take it apart, we can see the copper is clamped on the bottom. I really like it. It may not look like much, but this is pretty much easy grinding now from this side. We'll go and clean it up, and it actually feels like it doesn't need a lot of hammer and dolly work here. So that's good. Okay, there's a little bit of rust pitting I gotta clean up here, but at least you can see what's going on. We'll get a close-up in on that. There, now you can see it a little better. So the minimal grinding, and that will be done. All right, I had brought this away to a local powder coating company, and they blasted the tailgate. And I got the part I wanted cleaned up. I asked them to do in here and both of these edges, and it came back and they had done the whole thing for not much more. They said it would be easier for me to get the work done. So that's good. Plus I can see where we're gonna be fixing stuff in this area here, and the whole bottom will need a repair. This is blasted with soda. I actually didn't realize they were gonna blast the whole thing. I just asked for like this top edge and the outside edges. I'm kind of thankful for it, but I don't know how I feel about soda. I've heard good and bad. So you need a pH water-based solution, from my understanding, to neutralize this. I had a little bit of, from doing Pour 15 in the past, some Prep and Ready. It has a different name now. It's like Metal Prep or something. It leaves a zinc phosphate coating on here. So I'm going to keep scrubbing and spraying and neutralizing it. We'll spray it down with water, and it should be good to go. So I've just put it into a squirt bottle, and I just keep spraying and rotating because it likes to evaporate fast with a low humidity in this shop. So, and then we'll scrub with the Scotch Brite. Alright, so I've got this piece overlaid where the rust is, and I'm seeing I want to take the patch about this far, right here, and we'll cut this end off, save this for something else. It's a good clean piece, and then we'll just start it, I guess, around the corner here. Probably not even, but we'll do it anyways just to start the initial cuts. So this is what I've managed to shrink down for now. It's overlaid, and you can see the curve is a dead match to this. It actually lines up really nice. So the thing is, it's gonna go here on this one, right there. We're gonna cut it off right here, and then I'm guessing right here. And then we'll tack weld this onto there. But I would like to get this line drawn in here as well, so that I can put the 90-degree in before I get this all done. So what I'm going to do now, I've clamped it in place where it needs to be. I'm going to cut along the edge here so that I get the correct gap. I like to use the thickness of the cutoff disc to be the welding gap. This guy is cleaned up. I'll probably put a little weld through primer on the back side of this yet. I've cleaned up where the welds need to go. This is going to go right here. We'll clamp it into place over here, do the welding. Like if it's clamped here and here, that should keep it nice and square. And then I have some panel clamps that I want to put on there, I think. There's our 90. I decided to bend it beforehand. Hopefully we have it in the right spot. So I ordered these off Eastwood a while back. This piece screws loose. And you can see on the panel there the cube is. So this will slide in what you've cut for the butt weld, and then this will slide underneath. And then you tighten it down, and that keeps this pretty flush. So we got this piece welded in here now. I'm very happy with the result. I've left a little overhang here because that's pretty much close to the gap that we're gonna have. That's got to be filled. A little bit less metal that I have to insert here later. And looking in the back side, the weld's ground down in there. Should be good. So on to this guy. So we got patch and patch, and I think it's ready to have some primer done. So we want to prime inside here, inside that one, and that piece. All right, guys, I hope you don't judge me too hard for this, but I was on the Eastwood website and they have a roll-on primer, and I don't know how these rollers are gonna hold up, but I think I want to try rolling this on for a couple of reasons. I don't want to get the shop full of primer. We got to bodywork everything. I just need to protect the bare metal. So when it gets bodyworked, it all has to get sanded again anyway. So I kind of want to try this. If it works, I can use it for a couple of inconspicuous type things like this, just to temporarily protect things. So I'm using the Omni line, just some nice cheap stuff, epoxy primer. And mixing ratio is 2 to 1 to 1. I'm kind of very curious just to see where this experiment goes in reality here, guys. All right, so it's the next day. This is dry. This is actually, because it self-leveled itself to some degree, we're almost at a sprayed primer shine. It's a lot smoother. It's a lot smoother than a high build. A little bit more textured than if you would have sprayed this stuff. But yeah, it laid down pretty flat. Not getting the reflection right there. We go. But for in where I'm using this is perfect. Remember, these are some welds that I didn't have to finesse because they're on the inside. So I'm very happy with that. I will keep that in mind for small things like early stages of metalworking, bodyworking before the filler goes on. And I like it. I was using these plastic drinking cups, the clear ones. The primer will melt it in pretty quick order. So as long as you're quick with your roller painting, I guess. I went out, we went out as a family and did a coat and came back in. The shop here and the cup had kind of flattened itself out with whatever little bit of primer was left in it. So now I want to assemble these parts, and I'm going to be putting them together, screwing it down, and then putting on the backing plates to see where I need to put plug weld holes, just to give it a bit of a strength. I'll show you what you mean in a second here. So we got the windows sitting in here. We're looking at this thing upside down. Where I put this patch in did exactly what I hoped it would. It was a little bit overhanging, so I ran the grinder through there. I can literally weld this now, but we're gonna have to add a little bit of a piece of metal in here because it's too wide, which is a bit of a bummer. I wish I could just tack it across. There's some alignment pieces that go here yet, but we're not gonna put them on at this point. They're gonna sit here like this. The reason they're not going on is because it's all coming apart yet for one reason. This keeps it level. Each one of these is going to get outlined with Sharpie now. So I'm going to outline it with Sharpie. And these actually serve more than a piece, just to hold, more than just holding alignment. from side to side. The hope is they can go in the back side. So when I pull this off, I see where the screws are. I can then drill holes. I'll probably drill one here, 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 and here kind of thing. And we'll drill it in this piece and this piece. And that will, hopefully we'll be able to slide it into there. And that won't just be a butt weld. It'll have strength from the backside. And I believe, let's say you roll your car, right? And you got to replace the roof at the pillar. I believe you take part of the old pillar and you slide it inside and you plug weld that so that there's extra strength on that joint. That's exactly what my goal is here. Extra strength on all of these joints. So it'll be butt welded from the back if I can fit it. Otherwise, we're going to have to just, or it's going to be plug welded in from the back side if it can fit. And then we'll weld this straight across the top. It'll make more sense once you see me do it. Little bit of an alignment issue here, which had to do with this curve going in. When I stuck it in place, it made sense. Then when I cut everything out, I realized, oh, the bend's slightly in the wrong spot. And we'll tackle that at the end. But this one I got smart and it worked really well. I got a helper here. He's gonna outline these for me. He was excited to come help, right? All right. Hey, while he does that, something else I did today, I've been using these screws. I like these ones that have the actual socket head. They're a metal screw.
Maybe watching Grinch die.
Oh, nice. But we're not using such long ones. We're using these.
Okay.
But what I did today was I went and upsized a couple here. I got 12s, the really short guys, some 12s. But then this is the first round. These are 10s, and nice short ones. What my thought is, sometimes these holes pull through. You can see it's not all the way tight here. So sometimes they pull through and they don't hold tight. And so if one of these doesn't hold tight when it's in the back side, I can upsize the screw and have it like really snug down. All right, can you see me on this spot here?
Uh-huh.
So we're gonna take this piece off now. And I marked some holes. We're gonna drill holes in there. Oops. Okay, these are screwed in from the back side. Now the piece should be able to slide in and sit on here. It would also keep everything square and give it extra strength.
Yes, and to go in this.
Okay, I'll finish this later. These are gonna slide in here.
Bye, guys and girls, gentlemen.
Yep, that'll work awesome. Okay.
Bye, gentlemen and girls.
Gentlemen, it's ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen.
So I got all the welding on the other side done. We had a time lapse for that. What I'm going to do now is some of these gaps have closed up a little bit. I'm going to spread them, tack weld it. Then once that's kind of tack welded where it needs to be, I'm going to go and hammer these down. So we'll get into tack welding right away. So if you look here, some of these gaps have closed up a little bit. That won't work for welding. We're going to lose all our strength. But what I can do is come in here, spread it just enough like that. These are because I had to drill out some spot welds for those backing plates for the hinges. But if I spread it all the way around, then I should be able to hammer this down. I don't want to hammer this down first for the reason that if I hammer this first, that'll keep this from staying spread. It might keep it tighter than it needs to be. So we'll spread it, we'll weld it. So perimeter welding is done, or I guess tacking to hold everything in place. It's gonna be a lot of welding to get this done. Now I want to fold over these edges. All right, you won't see me in this shot more than my hands working, but what I do is to keep the bottom from bending, we put a dolly underneath. And we tap on it, and eventually it'll pull tight. And perfectly fine from this side. I have to pull this screw out once I get most of this done. And I think we're gonna have one or two tack welds in here. The top actually had none, but we will add one on the middle now because we're joining these two halves together. But yeah, we'll work down here, and I'll probably go a little farther, and then I'll pull this screw out of here. Just to show you guys, the top is nice and level. I had to come back with the dolly underneath here and hammer the top just to do a little finesse, but it's very workable for me. All right, so we have to fill this gap in here, and what I did was pick up some TIG rod from a local supply store. And it's steel TIG rod. It's gold because it's coated in a copper or something so it doesn't rust. But if swab comes in here, we have a gap like this. And I'm going to, with magnets, put that there once it's trimmed to shape. And what I was doing, you'll see on the other side, this allows me to weld this gap nice with the proper material. But I'll get it sitting flush. And once it's flush, I can weld on each side. And so if we flip it over, it's a little bit hot right now, but I just did this welding. So I've got it tacked in place, and later I'll come back and fill this in. So it should be pretty strong there. And I've done a lot of reading for some reason some guys want to weld their doors shut on their cord according to Google, and everybody's like they're gonna crack over time, and I don't know why guys would do that. I know why I want to weld this up. So we're taking a chance on, does that crack and does this crack, but we'll find out over time. It's something I wanted to try. If it doesn't work, well, we know it doesn't work and this is replaceable. It just won't be as cool. Alright guys and girls, me being a Christian, I take my faith seriously, and while I'm working on this, there's a Bible verse in Mark. It says the two shall become one, and that's kind of what we've done here. We took two doors and made one. I know it's out of context, but it's what was running through my head while I was working here. So it worked very well. The heat of the rod, it went into the rod, which is a bit thicker than the metal around it, which allowed me not to burn through as easy. And that wire that I told you about in the last episode goes pretty flush. It'd be easy to grind it back down. So I think it's only fair that we carry this to the back of the truck. It's probably not going to fit nicely. I left the struts on there so I can put this on by myself later. It's a little bit heavier, but I think we need to have a look because you got to get some motivation. You know, when you have welding for days to do on there, you got to at least take a little break. And Bob's down, he's filming tonight, and we're chatting 50% of the time, which is fun as well. So, see, this is what I mean, the struts are here, but we can probably put this in here, and I'll sit down and enjoy the view. Yep, it's pretty cool. So, that door behind me there is looking pretty cool. I got all the welding done that I wanted to at this point, and we're gonna go mount it up, but let's take a look at it first. Well, as you can see, all the welding is done on here, and the trick with the TIG rods worked wonderfully. So I gotta grind all these welds down, and we'll take a look after that. And at some point I'm going to build this, but I think we'll do this and this later on in the build. I've used up the windows now. We can grind this down and go mount it in the truck and do that. I want to move on to a couple other aspects of this build. So let's get grinding, and you'll see it in a little while. So I've got all the welds ground down to the point where I can work with body filler. And I fixed a little bit of a repair here. So we're gonna build this, weld those holes shut, and build this corner, I'm thinking. But how good is that? That is all the intense welding cleaned up. And these are those pockets in there. But I think it'll do awesome. What's going to happen at a later point is I'll build the whole bottom of this. And I think what will happen is I'll build it from here till wherever it screws in underneath here, right along the bottom. And this will probably be done in a couple pieces, you know. Yeah, but close up on the welds. Oh, and I'm going to fill this little one at some point, but not today. So I'm going to run this tap through all the holes here because I'll have some primer in there and potential rust. And we want the bolts to go in and out nice. It'll just be easier for fastening this thing. I'm going to be doing it by myself, no extra help. And this hole here might actually need a shorter bolt potentially. I don't remember where it goes at this point, like how deep, but it now curves underneath there. So that's something we'll have to consider, the length of the bolts here. We'll see if it goes in there or not. I mean, we'll have the two to hold it. It's not like we're going anywhere, like this one and that one. So we'll get these cleaned up. Okay, this is pretty cool. Does the strut still hold it? There's one locked in, and actually it doesn't feel any, it's a little heavier feeling than it was before, but it doesn't feel any heavier to open. So, very cool. Something's wrong with the alignment on the top before I even took this apart with these gaps here. But let's try and see if we can get these bottom doors into here. I want to have a good look at it. Very rough look here at these doors as a unit. It's pretty neat that it's all going to come together yet. Yeah, this will be workable. Actually get a perspective. These are held in place with some welding magnets at the moment, but I like it. Let's have a bit of a look. All right, thanks for tuning in to the show. This is exactly what I was hoping I could achieve, and it looks like it's going to work very well. We got rust repair to do in the bottom of this door, but I think next time I work on this truck, it's either going to be me starting to get these doors working, or I have all the braces that I've ordered to do the floor pans. But I kind of wouldn't mind having these working so they can get off the shop. We got something here. I've got Columbia spec hinges. They say they're not very consistent or the best, but we'll try them. And I've got a piece here, which is kind of hard to see. We should open it up together maybe. In the zipper. Maybe. There we go. Not. Okay. There we go. Okay. So there's a welded on hinge pin that sits inside of here. We're going to try and modify that to work. So I ordered that off Amazon. Yeah, so it should work very well actually. And this one can be bolted on, whereas the factory was welded. I know this is on the wrong side, but I've said earlier, the license plate holder, we're probably going to get one that fits on the other side. You know, these trucks, from what I understand, had the spare tire carrier on the driver's side with these windows from what I've seen. So that's what we'll do. Plus, I think I have access to purchasing a new old stock one from a local guy here. Something that will probably come along and we'll run that, or I'll build an aftermarket one. So thank you very much for tuning in. We've hit 4,000 subscribers, and I thank you to all of you faithful viewers who have been a part of that, and that's very exciting. We'll keep plugging along and building fun stuff. So as always, get in your shop and get your stuff done. See ya.